Jon Jones versus Dominick Reyes seems to be the next fight that Jon Jones is going to be going with. He announced recently on Twitter that he sees more challenges in the game of Dominick Reyes, so subtly telling Corey Anderson to fuck off, basically. So, yeah, Corey Anderson's whole plan of not fighting unless it's a title shot has really backfired here because the UFC hates that, so it looks like they're going to go with Dominick Reyes. I think this is a great fight. I think this fight is closer than I thought that Thiago Santos versus Jon Jones was going to be. And that worries me for Jon Jones because there is a clear decline in the dominance of his performances recently. He comes back, he destroys Gustafsson. In his next fight, he takes Smith to a decision, which is pretty dominant, but Smith has his moments. The next fight is Thiago Santos, who he took to a split decision despite Thiago Santos being on one leg. I just worry for Jones here because Dominick Reyes is young, he's undefeated, his confidence is unquestionable. Usually when these guys take on Jon Jones, they've all lost before. They all have that thought in their mind that tells them that they might not actually be the best in the world and that Jon Jones is the best in the world. Dominick Reyes doesn't have that thought process. He's undefeated. He's never been tested. I don't think he's undefeated because I thought that maybe the fight should have gone to Ozdemir. However, in Dominick Reyes' mind, he's bulletproof. He wants Jon Jones. He's young. He's technical. He's not young, but he's young in his UFC career. He's improving every fight. He just finished Chris Weidman in dominant fashion. I think it's a good fight to make. It's a good fight to make. Let's make it happen. We need cards to be filled. We've got a card in February that I haven't heard any title fights in the conversation of fighting on. I think it should be DC versus Stipe 3 on the main event. Jon Jones versus Dominick Reyes in the co-main event. And then just fill the rest of the card with monsters. Maybe we can do Darren Till versus Yoel Romero in the feature fight, third of the way down. That would make sense. Uriah Hall versus Derek Brunson 2, also on the main card. These are great fights. Let's get them made. Dominick Reyes versus Jon Jones. We need Jon Jones back in the mix. We have a gap. January is McGregor time, supposedly. March is Khabib time, or Tony time, depending on where. Or Tiramisu time. I don't know what March is. April is Israel Adesanya's time. We need a February gap that needs to be filled. I like that card. DC versus Stipe 3 on the main event. Jon Jones versus Dominick Reyes in the co-main. Darren Till versus Yoel Romero, which has recently been talked about. On the third fight down, Uriah Hall versus Derek Brunson. Who else could be on the main event? We need one more guy. We could have Dan Hooker versus Paul Felder. And you're done. That pay-per-view's done. No worries. That's all it needs to be. And the whole pay-per-view's done. Just give me some decent prelims and then that whole pay-per-view's finished. Good fight though. I feel like if there's going to be an upset, this is going to be the time for Dominick Reyes to pull it off. I don't know who I'm going with here. I'm trying to sweep this back round to actually the prediction side of things. I want to say Jon Jones because normally when Jon Jones takes a bit of time, we've never seen Jon Jones this active for a very long time. And it was his worst performances. And when you do fight that often and you went 5 rounds against Smith, listen, even if you're not getting beaten up, you're kicking the shit out of people's shins, you're kicking their ribs, your feet are getting hurt up. He took on Thiago Santos not long after, got his legs kicked the shit out of. So I'm glad that he's taken this time off. However, I don't know. We'll see what happens in the lead up to this, okay? Because this is going to be very interesting. I feel like a lot of people slept on Dominick Reyes versus Chris Weidman. I picked Chris Weidman to win. Dominick Reyes is just winning fights. He got up against Weidman, who's a great wrestler, had his hands together, got Dominick Reyes down for a second. Reyes worked straight back to his feet. Thiago Santos was able to do well with the wrestling of Jon Jones. Jon Jones had a few attempts. A lot of them were kind of shut down because Thiago Santos is so dangerous on the inside. I just don't like the style for Reyes. I feel like if you want to beat Jon Jones, you've got to be Anthony Rumble Johnson. You've got to be Francis Ngannou. You've got to be Wild. You've got to be Johnny Walker. These kind of guys are going to pose the biggest threat for Jon Jones. You've got to be Thiago Santos. You've got to swing for the bleachers and hope something lands. Because you're not going to out-technique Jon Jones. The only guy I can see potentially doing that on the feet is Israel Adesanya to Jon Jones. But I don't see anyone else being able to do it. And Israel Adesanya would have trouble with the wrestling. I just feel like to beat Jon Jones, you have to be a wild man. You have to be unpredictable. And you have to make advantage of 10-minute window that you have to land something vicious on Jones and turn the tide of the fight. So I don't see Dominick Reyes doing this. But I think there's a very high chance he does. This is a very close fight. Don't for a second think that this is a gimme fight for Jones, because it's dangerous. And I guess they didn't go with Corey Anderson, so I don't know who Corey Anderson should fight next. He's kind of in a situation. Corey Anderson versus Anthony Smith. And if Corey wants to turn that fight down like he says he's going to, then I guess Smith versus the winner of Jacare versus Blachowicz, which I think is going to be Blachowicz. Oops, I spoiled my prediction for my next video. Actually, no. I'll just release this video after my last video, where I gave the predictions. This is what separates me from the other YouTubers, you know what I mean? I have like 2 chromosomes and they're working on full effect. You know what I'm saying? Jones will win this fight. I think he'll put a dominant performance on. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Reyes is dangerous. Click that button there. Goodbye. See you later.